One of the things that I felt about it when I learned EMDR was I felt like there was a key that was put into this lock that had been stuck. And when you put the key in, which was the bilateral stimulation, it opened up all this potential, because the potential was when you say go with that, which is a common statement that an EMDR therapist might say to you, all of a sudden, like it was thoughts would come in. And so sometimes thoughts come into our brain all the time, but we don't think they're important. But that the EMDR therapist will say everything is important. And so then you'd say, I was just a little girl. Well, I was just a little girl. Oh, go with that. So then the unwinding is that it wasn't your fault that your uncle sexually abused you because you were just a little girl. But if you were just having a conversation, that meaning may not have come up in the same way. But I also felt that when the new thought comes in and we would continue the eye movement, is that it seemed like it also made it so, that there was a felt sense that this was true. Because, sometimes things happen to us and someone says, oh, well, Kate, it really wasn't your fault. But you go, not really. It was my fault, right? You don't really believe it. But there was something about the embodiment of that belief that happens with EMDR that was different from other therapies that I've certainly witnessed.
Right. I think that's what I meant. What, about defenses. It's like you get under whatever was going on that keeps you defended against anxiety or whatever the traumatic situation was, so that it comes to the person themselves. It's not like you said, if I said, oh, you were just 2 years old, it wasn't your fault, it wouldn't register, but the person figures it out. And it's just so amazing and, exciting, and everybody's brain is different. So it's kind of like watching, how the brain works in this most remarkable way. And I don't have any agenda except following my protocol. So I don't know where the brain's going to go. So I'm like watching this in amazement as they make the connections and as their brain heals and their brain goes to where it needs to go. There's no wrong way to do EMDR. That's what a lot of people think. Oh,
and I think that there's a piece of it that I really want our listeners to get, and that's the empowerment piece, what you said, because so much about psychoanalysis, right, was interpretation of the person's experience from what I learned about it. You're more versed in it than I am. But to have the person, I'm not dissing psychoanalysis, I just want to say, but when this comes from yourself and you say, I get it. And then you do the bilateral stimulation and they sense it. It is a game changer for them, for themselves, and how they walk. And that's where the trait change happens, where now I can say, oh, I'm a more confident person. I can go up to them and say, no way, Jose, I am not doing that. And I have a personal boundary that I didn't have before. And that can be so empowering for people. And I want to, because one of the things that we said is we were going to talk a little bit about TRM and how TRM can be integrated into EMDR. And I think with the part that happens when there is that sense, when all of a sudden these incredible meanings start happening, sometimes there's also a very active body experience. And sometimes saying, well, what I would have done if I could have, I would have just, and you see the movement of the hands making fists, that the person seems like they want to make that movement. So that's where the TRM piece comes in. We can say, well, can you, what is the impulse of what your body wants to do? And so then you see the person start to make that movement. And as they start to make the movement, there's a huge release of tension in the body. And there's a release that happens where you often see the body trembling. And the person then starts saying, it wasn't my fault, it was their fault. And I can protect myself now. And then I would just come back with a bilateral stimulation. And as you say that, notice that, right? And so then what else happens? And so then oftentimes more incredible meanings come up, but it's really the two working together when you see those, and then really their survival responses. That's what I've seen be very potent, that when you see the physiological responses of the survival responses, that you can so easily bring in the trauma resiliency model skills and then do the trauma reprocessing with the installation of the new meanings and the new sensations in the body with the EMDR. So I don't know, that's been my experience. Kate,